Thank you very much, Jean-Noël, and thank you to everybody for the invitation, and sorry that I'm not with you today. So I'm Leila Bagny-Beilhe, and I just make one slide to present you where I am now. So I'm in a research unit based in Perennial Island, in the southwest of Indian Ocean. And in my research unit, we work on plant communities and biological invaders in tropical environments. And so my research institute develops innovative control methods against pests, disease, and weeds in ecosystem, but also new ways of conserving indigenous forest environments. And we are making research and training in tropical crop protection and biodiversity preservation in terrestrial ecosystems. And we are composed of 3 research teams. One is worked on emerging pathogen genomics and epidemiology, another one on diversity and sustainable use of plant genetic resources in tropical environments. And my research team worked on ecological dynamics in island environments. So now I work more on the regulation of ants in Reunion Islands. So because we have a big problems of ants like pests in different crop systems. But today my talk will be more on what Jean-Noël said, what I did before. I mean regulation and agroecological management in tropical perennial crops. So I will present some work that I did in Latin America with my PhD student. And so my presentation will be very different from the one that you just saw, because I would like to introduce some concept and to make a discussion about how to study this natural regulation, and then how can we make a link between regulation, agroecological management, and ecosystem health. So maybe it can be a little bit different. So I hope that will interest you. So maybe you know that coffee and cocoa are mainly cultivated in agroforestry systems. So we have almost 30% of cocoa systems and 40% of coffee systems in the world that are cultivated under shade trees. Sorry. So just to present you an agroforestry system with cocoa or coffee. So mainly you have like the arboreal compartment that will make shade in our system. You have the host plant compartment with a plant like coffee or cocoa. Then we have an herbaceous compartment and a soil compartment. And what we have also, we have farmers. Mainly the ones that I worked with were like small farmers. So they used to have practices, but mostly they don't really use pesticide, or if they don't have the choice, because they don't really have income to pay for pesticide use. So what they do mainly in this system, they use to manage the biodiversity that is in the system. And then they have like agronomical practices with pruning or weeding. And for pests and disease, most of them used to harvest disease pods. So they just look at the plot, at the pods, and when they can see some kind of disease appearance, they just remove the pod. Whatever they can use or do with it. So in the region where I worked, I will present you later, we have like 4 pests and disease. So on the left we have a Phytophthora, and then we have a cocoa pod borer that is present in Indonesia, for example, in Southeast Asia. Then we have Monilia, which is a first pod rod, and then we have another type of Monilia, which is and these 4 pests and diseases can occur at the same time, sometimes on the same tree. And for example, on the left, we can see that one pod can be infected at the same time by Phytophthora and the cocoa pod borer. And what we saw, that in literature, we don't really have a very good definition of pest and disease regulating service. Some people say that there are all the biological and physical chemical mechanisms within our ecosystem that help regulate the appearance, incidence, and severity of pathogens or pests known to infect or can cause damage to other organisms within the ecosystem. But with my team, we prefer to use the capacity of living organisms to influence direct and indirect pathways that control the appearance, incidence, and severity of pests and pathogens that reduced the yield of crops. So the objective of this work was to know how does inclusion of biodiversity in an agrosystem influence the pest and disease regulating service. And first, we would like to know how to evaluate this regulating service in cocoa agroforestry system, and then which are the pathways that biodiversity harness to influence the pest and disease regulating service. So first, we just have to know that there's no methodology that exists for accurately measuring the pest and disease regulating service efficiency. Because, for example, there's no integrative indicator. Then most people use incidence, but sometimes the incidence is okay for one pest, but that's very hard to follow incidence of many pests at the same time. And also the problem that we can have is, for example, the severity is a very difficult indicator for farmers to follow, and it's not convenient for them because when they can see severity of the disease, that means that the sporulation has started, for example, for vanilla. So it's too late to control that. So we propose to use the yield loss as an indicator. So what is yield loss? If you just look here, you can see that for cocoa, at the beginning you have a potential loss. That just means that this is the yield that is determined by factors like radiation, temperature, and it's very related to the genetic potential of the species. And then you have the availability of water nutrients that can limit this potential yield and arrive to an accessible yield. And what we have after that, we have occurrence of pests and disease and climatic disasters and weeds, and that will give you your actual yield. And the differential between the accessible yield and the actual yield is your yield loss. So we decided to maybe work more on this indicator to be able to evaluate regulating service. And what did we measure to work on the yield loss? In the system, we work mostly, as I said, on the biodiversity compartment, so the arboreas, the herbaceous, and the soil compartment. We also evaluate the pest and disease compounds, the host plants, I mean the cacao plants itself, and that helps us to determine the attainable yield, and then we calculate when the pest and disease occur, what arrive for the yield loss and what is the actual yield for farmers. So for us, all these components of how the biodiversity is related to pest and disease components and what is the effect of the yield loss is the pest and disease regulation process. So we did this work in Peru, which is an important country for cocoa production, but there is also almost 60% of incidence of most damaging pest and disease on cocoa in the world. And farmers, as I said, they used to practice sanitary harvest, and they have a variety of cocoa that is auto-compatible. So we set up a protocol with different communities. We have sent 8 land plots, and in each land plot we have like a full sun and shaded plots. And we did different field missions during rainy and dry season. So my purpose today is not to present exactly our results, some of them, but just to explain you what were our, I would say that our workflow, our process of working to try to be able to estimate this regulating service. So first we try to construct our indicator of yield loss. So as I said, we have a combination of disease per pod. So we collect the pods and then we open them, and we were just looking at how many seeds were losses and what was, if we have, and what was the status of the seeds. I mean, if we have just affected seeds that people can, for example, sell on the black market, if we have destroyed seeds that is completely lost, and if we have, and how many healthy seeds that we have. And we relate that with the incidents that we can see when farmers made a sanitary harvest. So then we make a kind of calculation, And we were able to estimate what was the affected seed ratio per pest and disease combination, the destroyed seed ratio, and the seed damage ratio per combination. And we also estimate for this particular clone what was the average seeds per pod. So what we saw is that, for example, for black pod, we have half of the black pods, so in blue, that have affected seeds, and only 10% was completely destroyed. For example, for the frosty pod rod, we have around 70% that was completely destroyed, and 25% that was affected, and only 8% of the pods that was okay. I mean, you can use 8% of the seeds that are in the pod. So that was the first interesting result, and what we did with that, we combined that with the incidence at the tree level. So for example, now we know that with different profile, I mean if the tree has only Phytophthora, or if the tree has Phytophthora and the Fossiprodrod, or if the tree has only Fossiprodrod, what is the expected yield for this particular tree? And then we use this indicator a little bit later, I will show you. And as I said, we also study the different pathway of how biodiversity can affect the yield. So we measured different compartments, as I explained. So first one was what was related to abiotic effect on the trees. I mean the visual deficiencies and the stress symptoms. And we have like a grid that we can explain if we have deficiencies in zinc, or if we have a solar stress, hydric stress, other measurements. On the cacao tree itself, we did some type of architectural measurement with the height of the trees, the canopy, the height of the canopy, and many variables. We also measured the microclimate, since we know that the microclimate results from the effect of shade. So we made different type of measurement of temperature, of humidity. We also worked on vapor pressure deficit, that is a link between the capacity to maintain water for the tree, and this is a very good proxy for disease development. We measure the shade directly, so above cocoa tree and below cocoa tree, because the cocoa itself can make a shade that can impact disease occurrence. We measure also the soil chemical analysis, so we make some soil collection and we try to see the potassium availability, nitrogen, the boron, the zinc, and the soil pH, whatever. We measure the respiration in the soil with different methods that are developed by some researcher in Iran. We also make like some visual evaluation of the soil. For example, the texture of the soil, if it was compact and if it's made by sand or other thing, and also an evaluation of the composition of the soil. I mean, if we have, for example, wheat, if this is bare soil, if we have branches and other types of measurements. And what we did with that...
just to let you know, 5 minutes left.
Okay, it's okay, completely okay. And so what we did with that for these different compartments, we made some cluster analysis. So we have one compartment for architecture, another one for nutrient deficiencies, environmental stress, soil chemical, the different measurements that I did, that I showed you. And we also have an attainable yield compartment. And what we saw that we have three kinds of clusters. One was like with low attainable yield, another one with medium one, and another one with high yield, high attainable yield. And what we did, we tried to find all the relationship between low yield, middle yield, high yield, with the different components of the compartments that we measure, to find what are the conditions that favor finally this yield. And then what we did with that, I'm sorry, I'm quite rapid, but it's just to show you the process that we think and how we would like we wanted to make the analysis. Then we use like structural equation. Structural equation is interesting because that can help you to find direct and indirect effects on the response variable. And what we did, we tried to explain what are the factors that influence the total shape, for example, architecture and associated shape, what are influencing also the soil cover, architecture and total shape. So here is the part where we look at the link between the different compartments, because as you know, shade tree will affect microclimate, will affect cocoa growth, will affect incidence. And then we try to find also the link with yield loss. So here we have a kind of results that are a little bit complicated, but just to show, for example, that associated shade has a positive effect on the total yield loss, and the total shade has a negative effect on opportunistic plant cover. So this is a really systemic approach to try to understand what are the different pathways that will come and impact the total yield loss. So finally, for our first question about the evaluation of regulating services, we proved that yield loss be a variable integrated indicator. So maybe my talk will not show that exactly, but we have two papers that really put that in. This is a relevant indicator, and the yield loss framework combined with the pathway analysis allows us to evaluate the efficiency of pest and disease regulating services in a kind of, how to say that, natural system when farmers come with their practices. And regarding the different pathways that we found that all the compartments have at least a direct or indirect pathways, but some compartments like associated trees and the cacao risks themselves are very critical role. And the holistic view in the agro-system is really important, and the fact and also the combination of factors are important to be able to evaluate this regulating service. So as a conclusion, I say that, okay, we have many interactions, so I hope my talk helped you to see that we need to set up suitable protocol, to think about the statistical tools to use, and to need to borrow relevant expertise of people from the soil, from pests and disease, to be able to set up this kind of protocol. The plant diversity and pest dynamic, as you know, varies according to the scale, spatial and temporal, and we need to know how much biodiversity is needed to help farmers, how much shade should be used, what is the link with production, losses, and to better understand the mechanism, as I tried to show in my talk. And finally, I just want to have a question to see how we can make the link between agroecological protection and regulation services and the health of our ecosystem. So in my case, I'm in a cash crop system, so maybe we have two indicators that can be interesting, the profitability of the system and the sustainability of the system. And as you can see in the small graph, you have, for example, the ecosystem services, and maybe we think in our group that ecosystem services and the ecosystem health are very related. And for example, if you work with coffee yield loss, as I showed you for cocoa, you can see on this gradient of diversification that you have a trade-off between the coffee yield loss and the profitability of the system. And the profitability is the cost and the income that farmer has. And that can be interesting because with the cash crop, we know also that the livelihood of the farmers will depend on the money that they have. So this is something that maybe we can try to see how to go from ecosystem service to the ecosystem health. And I hope my talk helped you to try to think about that. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for being...
Long live India and France friendship.